Well, hey folks, it's your old pal, Raid Shadow Legends, and welcome back to NordVPN. Hit like and subscribe. I've been toying around with a couple of different ideas for some more source books for some of the games I have out on DriveThruRPG under the Total Party Skills publisher page. And then started to write a kind of a core rule book, a revised edition of the rule system I devised, filling in a few other blanks I hadn't gotten around to doing yet. A good way through it, but I'm kind of log jammed on the psionic section of just explaining specific psychic abilities and what kind of effects they have in game and difficulty numbers and yada yada yada. And it's very tedious and boring, and I haven't messed with it in like a month now. Since I've been running D&D once a week, I have been finding myself toying around a little bit more, at least on note paper, with devising my own OSR system. I think maybe it's time to graduate up from writing a bunch of B-movie schlocky concepts and actually try to do something a little bit more serious. But of course, if I'm going to be writing an OSR game, it's going to have to be radically different in its own ways. I'd like to use the name The Feudal System, but I haven't checked yet to see if someone's used that already, but I think it'd be kind of fun. The idea is, in large part, make classes based on actual human classes so that it translates better to different kinds of societies and history. So if you want to have it be based on a Western European style world, go for it. If you want it to be on a feudal Japan or feudal China or feudal Africa or feudal Middle East or feudal Central America, like anywhere where you have city dwelling people with nobles and clergymen and peasants surrounded by barbaric lands in history, you can basically use this rule system as like a template for that. I do mix in a couple of non-human races just for kicks, kind of a hybrid between them, either being racial classes like in basic D&D or races that can choose between different classes themselves, like humans in the more current versions of D&D. Those are going to be goblins, elves, and giants. Yes, I am going to actually do the thing that people have wanted, but for some reason D&D has been shy of, and it might be overpowering, but if used correctly, they'll find that they have a lot of hindrances in just being able to interact with the world. But yes, I will actually allow for people who can play large-sized characters in this. Goblins will be small, elves will be average human size. Gonna go for like the character customization as to like what kind of adventurer they are is going to be more based on the selection of skill modules that pretty much is open to anybody, but within the context of a noble or a peasant or a clergyman. You might have someone who's skilled in war or skilled as a tailor or skilled as a farmer or skilled as a scholar, and so on and so forth. I'm also going to largely rip magic out of the setting, at least so far as being in the player character's hands early on. There will still be magic in the world. Mythological type creatures like dragons and unicorns and all that kind of shit are still out there, but not quite as random encountery in the middle of the random woods as they are in your average D&D game. More of your wild beasts and kind of stuff, and leave the special monsters for special occasions. Really, because of using this kind of class system, it's intended to be more of a Game of Thrones-y politics and intrigue within and between civilizations, as opposed to fighting a hydra in a cave kind of stuff. Throwing in the goblins, elves, and giants just for kind of flavor to still give it this fantasy element and generally a suggested tone that this is after the end of the Age of Magic. And you can still find magic items out in the world, or even find old spell books, and if you can read them, you might be able to recreate the spells in the form of ritual and all that kind of stuff. But, even the clergy doesn't have the ability to, like, channel divine energy anymore. They're more going for a more realistic depiction of clergy in the real world, where these are people who've just, really highly educated. And so, they just have a broader range of knowledge to bring to the table than even, like, the nobles who have had to spend some amount of their time devoting themselves to, learning the law and heraldry and all that kind of stuff. peasants actively being a character class. I mean, you can have soldier peasants to farmer peasants to peasants who, it can eventually through role playing, and a proper skill selection, find themselves, attaining a higher class, forcing themselves in amongst the nobles, even though at their core they're always going to still be peasant in origin. Outlaws as a class, kind of the anti-peasant, basically on the same social level, but, wanted dead or alive kind of people. Doesn't necessarily have to be your thieves and criminals. It could just be people who've, did something wrong or were framed for something or now find themselves on the outside of the justice system of whatever your setting's going to be. And then barbarians to represent the tribal nomadic peoples who still haven't joined the educated, civilized, city-dwelling, agricultural-based societies, and who occasionally will, sweep through and conquer whole nations, and then themselves become the next generation of nobles and clergy and peasants, continuing the cycle ad infinitum. This is the kind of stuff I'm trying to build stuff around. I got most of the classes outlined. Still kind of tweaking back and forth on thinking exactly what skill packages I want to have available. The way I'm going to use skills is going to be a bit more closer to second edition AD&D's secondary skill setting system, except with a few more kind of things you can kind of generally do with them. You can also kind of view them as specific medieval careers and that kind of stuff. Language is going to be a bit harsher because I've always felt that the standard flat D&D a version of language where everyone knows common is kind of dull and not very terribly realistic. I'm not going to go for hyper reality, but I'm going to try to find something, a soft spot in between, hopefully, so we'll see. Anyway, that's what I've been working on, at least as that kind of a side project. At some point I might try typing it up. I don't know yet. It's just interesting little exercise, if nonetheless. Anyway, so I guess that's about it. Until next time, hit like and subscribe and stay waspinated.